welcome to Cycling Fashion Week, the only global podcast purely focused on cycling style, aesthetics, fashion, and lifestyle. I am your host, Alex, back for the first episode of 2023. And this week I am joined by my co-hosts Warren and Italian Alex. Tony is still off. He is still busy doing other stuff, but Warren and Italian Alex are out here grinding. And so, guys, welcome back on Cycling Fashion Week. Happy New Year. We took a little break over Christmas, but we are back. We are refreshed and ready to drop some takes on the state of cycling fashion. How you guys doing?
Well, I'm doing good. It's good to be back on the pod. I had a really nice time during the holidays, both away from the city and away from my bike and cycling at large.
Hold on. Away from your bike. I saw that you were logging in 3 hours Zwift rides on New Year's Day after having been out partying on the 31st. This is young guy stuff. I can't pull that off anymore.
That's true. That did happen. I went out New Year's Eve. I got home around 4:30 and then clocked in on Zwift at 11 for a 90-minute easy shakeout.
Why, Alex? Why?
Super dehydrated, probably.
I felt pretty good. I don't know what it was. Maybe I was still alive from the night before and I didn't have time to actually crash. But this is a cycling fashion podcast, and there was a group ride I wanted to join because I wanted to unlock a particular Zwift kit because I gotta keep it dripped up when I'm Zwifting. And it was a one-time event that happened to be on New Year's Day. So in the name of style, I just thugged it out and completed the ride.
See, this is why I dropped off Zwift and did what Warren and Tony recommended, and I went on Wahoo SYSTM. I just think the gimmicky nature of Zwift, of unlocking kit in the metaverse, is just silly. It's just not for me. I'm not a gamer. I don't really enjoy this whole gimmicky gaming setup for training. And yeah, that's what I did since last couple of weeks. I started training again and have been on Wahoo SYSTM, been really enjoying the structured nature of it, been doing some strength training on top of it. So 2023, we're going to look jacked, going to be fast on the bike, going to look lean and mean in kit. And that's how it's going.
I started a new program on System because now I can up my volume a bit now that my wrist is mostly recovered. And honestly, I did a strength workout 2 days ago, and my shoulders and arms are still a bit sore. So this is some serious shit. I think 2023 is the swole cyclist year, maybe moving away from the thin as a pole kind of physique and just getting crit boy jacked, I guess.
I want to see some abs through that kit, Warren. Those jerseys, I want to see the abs pop out.
All right, I'm not quite there
Crit
yet.
bro, I think Crit bro jacked is the aesthetic of 2023. This is where things are going.
You heard it here first. Crit bro summer.
Crit bro summer, and Wahoo SYSTM is all about that because of all that strength training. So
yeah, and the yoga, good for your core.
Okay, I did want to talk. We touched on it last episode, but the news has continued to trickle in since the last episode on the state of the cycling industry and the cycling fashion industry, and it's not good. And I guess, Warren, there's one piece of news that you wanted to touch on today.
Yeah, I think some people may have heard about this already if they follow any of the remaining cycling media outlets left, because those are dwindling by the week, it seems. Specialized cut a lot of their brand ambassadors, actually, or I don't know if they call them influencers so much. They're the brand ambassadors rode Specialized bikes, went to events, produced content, blah, blah, blah. But
Warren, are there some big names that we would know from following on Instagram? Or
the biggest name that comes to my mind, she wasn't actually cut, is Lael Wilcox, who she's, kind of in the ultra endurance cycling space, gravel, I don't know any of those event names, the Ultra Divide. That feels made up, but she does stuff like that. She's I think getting technically moved to a different area as part of their team or something. I don't know, but there's Sarah Sturm. That's another name that jumps out to me, who I think she's a gravel racer, so obviously we don't know much about that. There was quite a number of
Do you know
people,
like the
and I
Legion
think
people, like Justin Williams, Corey Williams, or is that a team
that's a
bikes?
team.
Okay.
So as far as I know, no, because they're an actual team that do races, and not just. I think it's more the people that do like gravel events, and some are racers, and some are literally just like go to the event and like create good vibes or whatever. Because those vibes aren't free. You got to pay somebody to
It
create
sounds
those.
like you just described the whole gravel scene here. Good vibes.
That's debatable with what you have to pay for them, but
Good vibes as long as you pay $300 for the ride.
yeah, or 500 if Leadville, which is a mountain bike race, but a lot of gravel bros there. And I'm not even kidding. Leadville, if you get accepted in lottery, I know this because my cousin's done it before, and he's likely to do it again this year. It's $500 if you get picked for Leadville, which is insane to me. I don't know what is welcoming or inclusive about that. Like that's the cost of a decent entry level bike for most people. I wanted to bring it up because Specialized, I don't think it was a news release. I think the news sort of got leaked, and then Specialized kind of like put out a bit of a statement saying, not confirming or denying, and saying they were like reevaluating. And the reason I think it's interesting is because I kind of wonder, with the state of the bike industry now, they went from this big boom to seemingly like now like crazy bike sales and a lack of demand. And often this isn't exclusive to cycling, but in a lot of industries, when profits go down, marketing is often the first to take a hit. I know that as somebody who works in advertising, worked in ad agencies for over close to a decade, and I now work client side. But layoffs are what happens when people start cutting on their marketing spend. And it just made me wonder if like ambassadors for other brands are going to start feeling the effects of that. I mean, who knows? I mean, Specialized, I think, had a pretty big program, and as a bike sponsor, I would imagine probably paying people a decent amount of money. So it's all speculation on my part, but I do
There was
wonder,
actually
like,
a great piece. I can't remember what the outlet was. I think it was something like Bicycle Retailer, or it was an industry specific publication, and they really made a step by step analysis of the, I guess, what some people have called the COVID whiplash, where things boomed
yeah.
during COVID, then you couldn't get stock, you couldn't get parts, and then all the parts arrived in 2022 when demand had already collapsed, and now you're left with a massive amount of stock at various
Mm-hmm.
retailers. And I assume it's the same for cycling, fashion, apparel brands as well. And there was also what I thought was funny in that article. Well, it's actually not funny because the industry's not doing great, but the one piece that I thought was funny was SRAM reportedly having allowed their retailers to discount up to 25% for SRAM components, because they usually don't discount. They don't do that. And now they're allowing their retailers to discount SRAM components 25% off, to move the stock, to move the inventory, basically. Warren, would you buy a SRAM group set if it was 25% off?
They could send us a free group set, and I wouldn't use it. Like it, I'd rather have a working group set.
Damn, strong words.
Do you run SRAM?
Me, no. EOLO only.
Exactly.
As I've said before, I find SRAM runs best when the drivetrain is really dirty and there's like sand in it and mud. I use it. This is the time of the year that I use SRAM because I don't get outside much to ride at this time of year. But if things get a little warmer, it's a little bit muddy. I don't want to get my beautiful bike dirty. I get out my SRAM equipped
Mm-hmm.
kind of war bike, and I get out there and I find that's when it shines. But if it gets clean and if it gets put in good conditions, then forget it. Chain's going to draw up. It's going to be not functional. Yeah, I don't think I would take SRAM at 25% off either. I think you would have to pay me 25% over the cost for me to take it. I don't think I would. Yeah. So anyway, things are rough in the cycling industry right now. It's been quite the boom and bust. And Warren alluded to it at the beginning as well. Cycling media not doing so well. It seems, will the last person leaving CyclingTips, close the door or turn out the lights after they leave? I don't know. That's actually really sad. CyclingTips was an incredible source for
Yeah.
cycling news analysis. I mean, the quality of the content was stellar. And it seems that since Outside Magazine purchased it, they're pretty much intent on turning it into an AI generated generic news source. Like,
I think that's giving Outside like too much credit. I don't think they had any plan for Cycling Tips specifically. Like Cycling Tips was bought by Pink Bike, and I think Outside actually wanted Pink Bike, and just by virtue of buying Pink Bike, which is a mountain bike site, I had to look it up, I swear. They got Cycling Tips, and all these big layoffs of Kaylee Fretz and Dave Rome, and then most of the staff quitting. There's, I think, 3 full-time staff left at this point. As I've said before, I was a Velo Club member. I unsubscribed after those layoffs because I didn't know what I was paying for anymore. And I'm glad I did, because I think they've had one article in the last 2 weeks, one new article. And I do want to just quickly give a shout out to the new podcast started by Kaylee Fretz, Dave Rome, and other casualties of the Cycling Tips layoffs, which is called the Placeholder Podcast. I think it's a placeholder for whatever they basically replaces Cycling Tips. But if our listeners were fans of Cycling Tips and haven't discovered that yet, you should check it out, because it's basically the Cycling Tips podcast, minus James Wong until he either quits Cycling Tips or gets laid off. Yeah, Cycling Tips has been my go-to cycling media for quite some time. There's like, road.cc can sometimes be okay. And then,
I mean, look, Cycling Tips, we joke a lot. We call them our good friends, even though we've never technically met them or have spoken to them or been in contact with them. But we have a lot of respect for them. What they've done was incredible. Wade Wallace starting at the quality of the content, but it's just sad to see it, become a shell of its former self.
I mean, maybe if we still had a sponsor, we could like afford to pick up Cycling Tips or employ some of the people laid off. And
I mean, I think we could probably afford. I'm not sure what the value is at this point. Probably approaching zero, I would assume. So I think we could probably afford zero at this point.
Both the media in such a bad spot and the industry in such a bad spot, it sounds silly to be like, I'm worried about cycling, because I mean, cycling is like this incredibly rich sport that I don't really know what I'm worried about. I think there'll always be stuff for us to buy, but will it be good and fashionable stuff is what I really care about.
Okay, for our next segment, it is the return of the Panache police, where we essentially establish the rules, we drop the takes, we drop the verdict on various things that are being released in the world of cycling. And 'tis the season where we review new team kit that has just been released. So late December, early January, U-Pro teams, that is, usually release their kit to the public. The season is going to start soon. I believe you have usually the Tour Down Under, then followed by some of the golf races, and then beginning of the classics with the Omloop Het Nieuwsblad in, I believe, late February usually, or early March. And then it goes all the way into the Flemish Classics and then the Ardennes Classics. So it's getting closer and closer. We're excited, and teams are releasing kits. So this is our job. That's what we do. We're going to talk about the new kit that has been released, see if we see any trends, where things are going. And there's been a lot of them recently. And we will begin our review of team kit with Team Jayco AlUla, which is better known, I guess, as Green Edge. People still call them that, even though they've kind of moved on from their sponsors. They released their kit. That's the Australian team. Guys, I believe that was the team that we deemed to have the absolute worst kit in the pro peloton in the last few years. And I'll let you guys opine on this one, but for me, it's bad news. The kit is very similar to what it was last year. It is still pretty bad, but I don't think it's the worst. I've selected one, which I'll keep for the end, which I think is the worst. But essentially what they've done, they've kept the white, the blue, and again, they've got this thing where the women's team has to have a little bit of pink or purple, just so we can identify that it's clearly a women's kit. Otherwise, we very obviously would not be able to identify it. But it's pretty ugly. I mean, guys, what did you think about it?
So yeah, they were Bike Exchange last year, and we did say it was worst kit. It's very similar, but yeah, I'd agree. It's somehow not quite as bad, but it's pretty bad. And the fact that they have to have pink accents on the women's uniform is like, are we still doing that again? Like, I think they were ridiculed by more than just us for that last
They
year.
just doubled down on it though.
But it's like less pink.
It's like fuchsia a little bit, kind of purpley, but still in that color palette, so we can identify that it's women.
It's so stupid. And then I don't even know what Jayco is as a company. It's something Australian, it seems. It's an RV manufacturer. I just looked it up real quick. But I actually don't hate the Jayco logo. So maybe on the back, the front is just whatever. But yeah, it's pretty bad. And then in the like Instagram videos, they're doing the Wednesday Addams dance from that Netflix show that was like huge on TikTok, which I always find like kind of cringeworthy when pro teams are trying to like follow TikTok trends in their promo videos. So just for that, I Canal it. But yeah, the kit itself, bad.
Yeah, obviously very lame to have the pink details in the women's kit. Terrible idea. I think that what makes this a bit better than last year, yeah, is just that the font of the Jayco logo, it's like that Arial adjacent font, so that's pretty trendy relative to the logo that was on it last year at the same spot, the Bike Exchange one.
Sorry, are you saying Arial is trendy as a typesetting?
100%. Have you seen those standard bikes? So hot right now. And then
Oh
this
boy.
looks like the same kind of font to me.
I mean, I don't know that like Helvetica New York subway style, signs are trendy. I think it's a classic font that's been around forever. But I guess some designers might also say it's a bit lazy. I'm not a designer. I think someone was in our DMs actually complaining about how Helvetica on bikes was lazy and boring. I don't have a strong view about it, but I certainly wouldn't call that trendy.
Well, maybe it's just being used a lot again. I agree. It's that font is mostly classic in the like advertising marketing space where I work. That it probably be considered lazy because it's classic, but it's also classic for a reason and largely safe.
It's not innovative, put it this way.
It's not saving or ruining this kit either way.
Oh, the kit's just ugly to begin with.
Yeah.
It's just the way they divide the color of the blocks, the finishing too on the kit. I don't like the way they've done the seams, the blue seams on the white jersey. There's a sort of geometric pattern on the kit that I don't think looks good. I don't know, man. Just a really ugly kit. They've doubled down on the kit from last year, and it's very bad. Okay, moving on. Next one we're going to talk about is, I mean, a classic. They're up there every year. Team Education, EF Education, Easy Post. So what they've done, so have they officially released it, Warren, or has it just been
No.
leaked on Reddit or on social media?
No, it's like a couple riders have posted selfies like we've
Right.
seen. Somebody actually sent us some shots as well and said you didn't get these from me that were a little more revealing than these social media shots, but you
Yeah.
get a pretty good look at the jersey.
So it's made by Rafa. So, a very established brand that's been around for a long time. They've set a lot of trends. It's made by Rafa. I would say, look, I've seen, again, glimpses and fragments of the kit through things that have been leaked. I believe the bibs are black and the jersey is pink. So pink is kind of their signature color, but there are two or three tones of pink on the jersey. There's a fluorescent pink, which is a very kind of 1990s, early 1990s pink that you would have seen on like a Vuarnet t-shirt or something like that. There's a slightly softer pink as well. And on one of the sleeves, which is the sleeve where you have the black Rafa armband, there's almost like a Giro pink, like a more, like almost beige pink on it. So you've got these three pinks on the jersey. You got the big EF Education logo with the concentric circles in the middle. Then you got the other sponsors on the chest: Nipo, Wahoo, Easy Post. I think it's a great kit personally. I love pink in general as a color. They are the only team in the Pro Peloton that has a pink kit. I think it's very recognizable. I think it's almost becoming iconic at this point because they've been running with this for a few years now, but making incremental adjustments every year. It's made by Rafa, which, as I said earlier, is a quality manufacturer, which has made iconic designs. The armband has been around for a long time. They're a proven manufacturer of kit. And I've also been told by someone that I respect because I've stopped buying Rafa a few years ago after a few unfortunate experiences with them, but I've been told that the really high end of Rafa is very, very good at performing well, and it's very well made. So I can't speak to that because I haven't purchased Rafa in recent years, but I think they do deserve respect on the back of that. So personally, to me, that's a hit. This one, I like it.
I feel like I needed to see the proper photos of the kit. I definitely don't like. It's not in any way bad. I lean towards it being good, but I'm not going to say it's like a home run or anything yet because it might be a little on the safe side for EF. But maybe they've got some wild Giro kits coming or something. With Palace or I don't know, some new Zoomer brand. I do like the different approaches to pink. I think the bibs are back to black this year, given that most of the logos are black. I will say there's a photo from Andre Amador that I'm looking at right now where he's showing off the kit. And if they're doing it with those all white POC helmets, that is not a good look personally. Like I think you should go with the black helmet to match all the black logos personally.
Or pink helmet, maybe.
Yeah, I'm kind of reserving judgment on that on this one. I think I like it, but I might be like somewhat indifferent on it until once I see the whole photos.
I think it's a perfectly fine kit, but I think it's a bit of a downgrade compared to their kit last year. They had the really cool green bibs that really were kind of garish and didn't really match the pink, but for some reason it just kind of worked. And it was cool to see the trend of colored bibs enter the pro peloton in a really striking way. So to revert from that to a very safe black bib, just to me screams playing it safe. So it's a bit of a downgrade relative to last year. The one thing I did kind of like about the kit, from what I've seen, is that there's like the one shoulder arm material that's like a significantly lighter color.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's kind of a neat detail. It's a bit interesting.
I kind of have Tony ringing in my ear a little bit from last year because he was just saying like EF like in terms of world tour kit, this is still like so much better than every other team, and I think it largely is. Like I don't think I'm going to see a team kit that's better that I like better than this. But they've just set the bar so high for themselves that when they don't do something kind of mind blowing, I feel a bit disappointed. So
just a couple of points on mine. I agree. I wish the bibs were another color than black. I like when bibs are another color than black. I love the full matching. If they had done pink bibs, I mean, I would have been over the moon.
Oh, that'd be crazy.
But they would never do that. But note to EF education first, pink bibs next year. Secondly, and this is maybe a very, very niche reference that I'm not sure a lot of people will get, maybe some of our listeners in Australia. It actually reminds me of a kit that was made, I'm going to say 10 years ago, by a tiny kit brand out of Australia, which I think was just literally one guy making kit, which was called Fiasco Ciclismo. And they were making aggressively fluorescent kits, very, very reminiscent of what you would have seen in the early 1990s. And this shade of pink from EF Easy Post really, I think, is reminiscent of that tiny brand out of Australia, which I think no longer exists, but was around, called Fiasco Ciclismo, made really cool kit. I feel like it might be inspired a little bit by that, but anyway, that's what it reminds me. Third point I wanted to make, the fact that it's pink means that they will drop a special kit for the Giro, which I'm very excited about, which maybe another Palace collaboration, who knows. Okay, next up, not a team kit, but we felt we needed to comment on that. Geraint Thomas's iconic sunglasses are no more. He has Canal them, and he is now wearing sunglasses or partnering with a brand called Sun God. I guess they're a bit POC looking, I would say. I mean, they look a little bit like those POC sunglasses from maybe 4 or 5 years ago. There's nothing special to them, but those white Oakleys are in the Canal. How do we feel about that?
The Sun God ones actually remind me of a few years ago. Our friends Attacker or Attaque from Australia made eyewear one season, and these ones that Geraint's wearing in the Sun God Instagram look a lot like those. Actually, I actually don't mind the sunglasses, but like the fact that Geraint's been forced to move away from his sort of iconic Oakleys is, I think cycling fans everywhere are pretty devastated about that. Realistically, Geraint he's getting paid a handsome amount of money. Probably he's going to wear whatever they tell him to wear. I think the fact that, like, whether you like those Oakleys or not from style perspective, you have to respect that he wore those for so many years, regardless of the fact they sort of fell out of fashion the last couple of years. He just stuck with them. So he had a look and he went with it. And it's kind of sad that's going to be missing from the Peloton this year. The Ineos kit has come out. We're not really talking about it because I don't think maybe we just missed it. But anyway, he's wearing the jersey in this photo, and I noticed they've sort of got like a little Argyle pattern going on. So I feel like they're kind of ripping off EF a little bit.
Lawsuit coming from Jonathan Vaughters.
Oh, for sure. I think he loves to sue people.
Yeah, I mean, terrible start to 2023 to have Geraint Thomas switch sunglasses. I know he's beholden to his sponsors, but it was just such a iconic look in the Peloton that we're going to miss. I personally am not a big fan of these sun gods. Taking into account what you guys said, I just think they're kind of like the RC Cola version of like the Sutros. It's just like they took a iconic silhouette and then cheaped out a little bit on the design of it.
Are you a Sutro guy, Italian Alex?
Absolutely not. No, I'm not a big Sutro guy. Like on the day to day, I wear the discontinued flight jackets, which are kind of like the ones where they don't have anything along the top of the lens.
They're pretty close to Geraint's Oakleys, are they not? The ones you wear normally? Am I crazy? Or are those the retro ones that you?
No, so
you
that's what I was
bought
going to say. So, for practicality purposes, I wear the flight jackets. But
Right.
when it comes to style, there's only one Oakley that reigns supreme, and that is the 1990s Michael Jordan eye jacket. The gray, really, really bio-looking two-lens sunglasses are the best.
Italian Alex has worn them on a few rides. It's definitely a look, and it like Geraint, it's immediately recognizable. I hesitate to say iconic, but definitely distinctive. That's really my take on Geraint. We're going to be missing that, and I think the Sun God sunglasses are kind of just going to fade into the Peloton. I don't think they look distinct really in any way.
Next team, it is an iconic team. They are a very, very winning team, very successful team, and it is Soudal Quickstep. Now, you heard this right. It is now Soudal Quickstep. It's no longer the Koenig Quickstep. There's been literally every sponsor next to Quickstep on that jersey, but it kind of sounded a bit odd to me that Soudal jumped from Lotto to Quickstep, as I believe Lotto got downgraded from being a world tour team to now being something else, as they didn't get enough UCI points. So Soudal was having none of it. They wanted to stick with a world tour team, and they went to Quickstep, which is a pretty successful one. This kit, okay, let's describe it. It is blue. There's a lot of blue, and that's something that is going to be a recurring theme today. There's a lot of blue kits out there in the Peloton, and it's going to actually be difficult to distinguish between teams and riders as we watch this thing on television. But it's blue. It is a fairly dark blue, but again, there's different shades of blue. The bibs are blue. Kit is made by Castelli, which you can instantly recognize by their ugly logo, which we've talked about at length on this podcast. There's a white block on the chest of the rider where you have the two main sponsors, Soudal and Quickstep, and that white block extends to the biceps or the arms, and above and below that, you've got some more blue with some smaller sponsors like EcoPack, Latex Co. There's the Specialized logo as well on both thighs as well as on the upper chest area as well. My take on it, I think I'm a bit ambivalent about it. I don't love the blue. I find the different shades of blue just look unintentional. It looks like they were lazy and didn't apply the same shade of blue throughout. It could be very intentional, like it was the case in the EF kit with the different shades of pink. But this one almost looks like as if my daughter had tried drawing the kit, if you know what I mean, with some Crayola markers. Mm-hmm. It's pretty ugly in that sense. The other thing I could have liked on that kit is the white block on the rider's chest looks a little bit like what you would have seen from very, very old kit from the 1960s or 70s. Like Eddie Merckx could have been wearing this. But again, the finishing on that kit looks quite poor. And I will say again, unintentional, that I feel it's a bit of a missed opportunity. I do like that there's Napoleon on both arms, which seems to be a sponsor. It says Napoleon Sports, and there's like Napoleon Bonaparte's face on it, which I think is kind of cool personally as a Napoleon Bonaparte fan. But other than that, I think that's a miss. I don't think that's a great kit overall.
My only real feelings about this kit are, one, I probably would have tried cutting out the blue on the very top and the shoulder area and having sort of like half blue and half white, but then that might have looked like Israel Premier Tech from last year, so maybe not. So my only real take about this kit is it's robbed us of the Lotto Soudal kit from last year, which was quite good and had been around for a long time. The kind of red, white, and black looked really good. So I don't like it because the sponsor change means we're not getting that anymore. And
The thing with this kit is it's just very forgettable. There's nothing really to write home about in terms of making it distinctive. I think if they just stuck to solid lines where like the colors change, it'd be a lot nicer. But I don't know if it's just because they need to make the kits distinctive year over year. But instead, like Warren described and French Alex described with like the weird energy lines. Like I don't know how to describe it. Wind lines where it looks like they were like coloring it and they ran out of ink. Like I understand why they did it to make it stylized, but I just think they kind of it's a miss and it just doesn't do anything for me.
All right, so a miss from Soudal Quickstep. Next up, another blue kit. We have another fairly successful team, Movistar. And what's interesting in the case of Movistar is they changed kit manufacturers. Last year, they went with Italian e-commerce brand La Passione. And this year, they are moving on to Spanish kit maker Gobic, which is a kit maker, I believe, that was started in 2010 in Murcia, Spain. And I mean, the kit looks pretty similar to what we saw last year. It's also a blue kit. It is essentially block color blue, the bibs and the kit. Again, a slight fade in the blue. It starts very, very dark in the center and the core of the body, and it lightens up a little bit to that canyon blue as you go towards the sleeves. And that is where it says canyon, of course. Kit is made by Gobic. The fit looks pretty good, to be honest. I think last year on the La Passione kit, there were some apparent issues with the fit overall, but this year that does not appear to be the case. I've never worn Gobic, so I can't comment on it. The one thing that to me is the elephant in the room when talking about this kit, and again, very similar to last year and the year before and the year before, and it's just the nature of the Movistar logo, which is possibly one of the ugliest logos in the corporate world around the world. This is not even related to cycling, it's related to companies overall. I believe that of all companies in the world, the Movistar logo might be the ugliest. And the fact that it's on the jersey in such a prominent fashion is rather unfortunate. That is my take about the kit. Remove the Movistar logo. I think it looks good, but unfortunately, it is there to basically feature the Movistar logo, and as a result, it looks like garbage. Did I get this wrong, guys, or you feel the same?
no, I mean, I agree with you on the Movistar logo. I always have felt it looks like an energy drink logo, and I just can't shake that. I don't know why, but the one thing I wanted to say is whoever is designing these Movistar kits year after year has like the best grift going. It's like the same kit every year with like the slightest variations. Like, yeah, the blue was a little lighter last year, but yeah, it's like he just went into InDesign or Photoshop and slid the blue color bar.
But you see, for the EF kit, that's also the case, Warren, for the EF kit, which I mentioned earlier, but that's a good thing because they made it iconic.
No, not really, because they did the 4 different pink panels. Like there's some thought there. Like Movistar is literally like, yeah, blue and change the shade a little bit and then throw the Movistar logo in the middle. Like it's probably the kit manufacturers doing it. So I don't think there's one designer doing it after year.
So, Warren, on the energy drink front, I think you raise a really good point about the Movistar logo looking like an energy drink. Essentially, the Movistar logo looks a little bit like the Monster Energy logo. after it took a few too many alcoholic drinks and became drunk. Like that's kind of what it is. Or
It's For Loco, which is like an energy drink with alcohol you can get in the States. I don't know if that's available in Europe. But anyway, I think the fact that Movistar only used La Passion for 1 year sort of reflects my own relationship with that brand. Is I think we've talked them up a few times. I actually do still really like their bibs. I think they're some of the most comfortable bibs I own out of most brands, behind only like Attacker. Shout out Attacker Bibs. I just feel like I've really gone off that brand. I'm just not interested in what they're doing lately at all. And so,
they've had some really bad designs lately. I guess the way I saw La Passion is they were an affordable entry level online brand that you could go to for block color kit when you're getting into cycling. And then eventually you evolve into other brands of kit. I don't know, it's not particularly high quality, but it's affordable. It was simple looking. However, they went into some funkier designs. They had some um, bad slogans, bad mottos, like "worth the effort" that I think looked ridiculous. And I'm also like you, Warren. I guess I've turned away a little bit from that brand as I've become a more discerning buyer of kit. Not to brag.
oh, and then one other thing I wanted to mention is there's already a shot of Alejandro Valverde in this new kit I've seen. So maybe he's not retiring, which would fit the fact that nothing ever changes about Movistar, not their kit, not Alejandro Valverde, not the fact that they seem to be a mismanaged mess on the road.
Okay, one easy improvement they could have made to at least make this kit a little bit better is at least match the bibs to the jersey a little bit more. You already have a navy jersey, just make the bibs more blue. They look to be almost black, and I feel like they should know better than to throw black with dark blue. It just doesn't match well. At least with pink, there's a contrast because it's a very fluorescent color against black. But with these two, they're like close, but not close enough to be complementary, and so it's just kind of garish to me.
And how hard was that in a world where literally every brand and their mom is making blue bibs nowadays or navy blue bibs? Like, I feel like navy blue bibs have become the new black bibs.
So someone should tell Movistar because they're still on the black run. It's looking terrible.
Okay, next up is Cofidis. Again, classic team, been around forever. And the maker of the Cofidis kit. So I actually had to look this up because I didn't know that brand. Probably a very European thing that we don't really get too much here in North America. But the brand is called Van Rysel. And what Van Rysel means essentially in Dutch, Rysel is the Dutch name of the French city of Lille, which is in the very, very north of France, around where, actually very close to Roubaix, basically. So very strong cycling heritage with the cobblestones. So that is the brand called Van Rysel.
Wait, I just want to interrupt you because Van Rysel is actually the house brand of Decathlon.
So okay, I was going to go there. I was
Okay.
going to save this for the end, but this is what I find interesting and a bit of a turnoff as well as a cycling snob from that kit is that it is the house brand of the French sporting goods store Decathlon. Warren, do you guys have Decathlon in Toronto at all? Because we have it in Montreal.
We do. There's a storefront in Union Station, which is like our our main central train station, but we also obviously have it online as well.
And not a particularly high end retail experience is, I would say, is the Canadian Tire of sporting goods. If
I'd say it's a notch above Canadian Tire. I don't know what, I guess Duke Sport in the US.
Dick's Sporting Goods.
Yeah, it's definitely not high end. And like the reason I wanted to make sure you're going to cover that is because, yeah, Decathlon is like, for anyone that doesn't know it, though I feel like a lot of our listeners probably will, it is a discount site. Like you can get affordable athletic equipment and wear for pretty much any sport. And that's why I think it's very interesting that their house kit brand is doing
And what's also interesting, Warren, is the fact that we are talking about affordable with a negative connotation on this podcast just shows how elitist we've become and how elitist this sport is. But you see, yeah, it is the perceived brand value. The fact that it is the house brand of Decathlon is, unfortunately, the perceived brand value is a little bit lower. That being said, I like the kit though. I like the kit design. Cofidis red is somewhat iconic, I would say, at this point. I mean, this team's been around forever. The Cofidis, the company is very, very committed to supporting cycling, and we can only commend that. And I do like the ribbed sleeves that they've done there. I think it looks good. Now, this being the house brand of Decathlon, I'm guessing that the quality of the kit is probably not great, but just looking at it on photos, I think looks okay. The red on the body of the kit. So they've done black bibs. Unfortunately, I wish they had kept the red bibs, done black bibs, but the jersey, the fact that the red, there's an interesting kind of marbled effect on it, which is a little bit reminiscent of the kit that was made by our very good friends over at Encore here in Montreal from last season. So the marbled red, I think, looks pretty good. So yeah, I mean, as far as the design of the kit, I think it looks good. I have big question marks about quality, but it is what it is.
I am slagging on affordable kit because you should spend all your money on kit, but realistically, it is because I question what the quality would be like. They have some kit like that's so cheap that you're almost tempted to buy it. The quality, I worry, just would be bad enough that it wouldn't be worth trying it. Anyway, that's off topic. I really like this kit as well. I think it's really got a pretty classic and iconic look to it, and Cofidis kind of carries that over season to season, and I like they've stuck with it. Yeah, the red bibs might have been better, but I don't know. I don't mind the contrast of the red and white to the black. I think it stands out nice. I like that the women's team has basically the same exact kit. I really like it. I think it's one of the most noticeable in the peloton because it's been around for so long, and it stands out for that reason, which, as again, here Tony in my ear likes to remind us, the whole reason of the whole purpose of these kits is to attract attention to sponsors. And so it does a good job for that as well, but it also looks pretty good.
Kind of like the ribbing on the sleeves, which have that compression. It's kind of a cool effect. And the marbling on the center of the jersey too. Yeah, shout out to Encore for the similar design from their jerseys. And I like the Cofidis logo here, which looks like it's kind of been redesigned, also with a sans serif font, just very clean looking, classic. But I pray for the well-being of these riders in having to use a Van Rysel chamois, because actually having a set of bibs from Van Rysel that I bought just to wear on the trainer, those things will burn and kill you because they're just such bad quality. You cannot sit on a saddle without having to get off every 5 minutes in those bibs. So I'm hoping these riders are taking their speed suits on the side to like a seamstress or a tailor and getting a different chamois inserted into this instead of the decathlon ones, because
let's be honest, the kit that the Cofidis team is wearing is almost certainly not what is sold on Decathlon.
Probably not.
Okay, next up. So Warren, you're gonna have to enlighten me here because I don't know that team. Uno X team, which appears to be a Scandinavian team. They've got riders from Norway, Denmark. That's not a world tour team, Warren, is it?
No, but they do appear in a number of world tour races. And I think they're ultimately gunning for, one of the world tour spots when somebody gets relegated.
But are they just in Arctic Tour of Norway and this kind of Scandi stuff? Or are they around in bigger races too?
So there's two wildcard teams for this year's tour, Israel, Premier Tech, and the other one's actually this team, Uno X. So they will be in the tour this year.
I think they are like only or Scandinavian riders, I think, is so far. I'm sure they'll expand at some point. Like there was even like a joking rumor that Mads Pedersen was going to transfer to Uno X from Trek Segafredo. I included them on here because like they have a very unique kit. It's actually this year is almost identical to last year, it looks like. I like it. It looks Scandinavian to me because it's got the sort of pale yellow and red look and this big X logo. You're asking me these questions of the team, Alex, and I'm showing I know very little about the actual team, like who's behind it.
So Alexander Kristoff is in that team now. So I guess that's where he's gonna ride out into the sunset on a local Scandi team. But yeah, and just for the record, Uno X appears to be a gas station in Scandinavia, and I mean, it shows. Warren, you said you like the kit. I find the kit looks very gas stationy. Shout out gas
Why
station
I like it.
food cyclist, one of my favorite
Yeah.
Instagram accounts. This is probably you're stopping somewhere in the middle of nowhere, buying a bag of Skittles or Haribo and a chocolate bar and a Coca Cola. This is the logo that you're seeing. I mean, Uno X, it's the Esso or the Irving of Scandinavia. It's also the McDonald's color palette in a way. I can't unsee that. I I wouldn't say that it's a great kit overall, but anyway, interesting because I'd never paid attention to them before.
Speaking of gas stations, it's the shell colors, so that's also harkening back to that gas station vibe.
I like it, Alex. You say that like the gas station thing if it's a bad thing, but I actually kind of like it. I don't know. It's photography is like a big hobby of mine, and I really like those old photos of like 1980s Americana and like, Route 66 in the middle of the desert, these old
Yeah,
gas
but this
station
is
signs.
modern Scandi gas station though. It's not mid-American.
I disagree. I think it's both, to be honest. I hear what you're saying because it's definitely also modern Scandinavia. The one thing I will say is they have Sweet Protection as their helmet sponsor, and the yellow and red models they've made of, I think it's the Falconer helmet, do not look good at all. I really don't like that. I think they
They
should.
look very McDonald's-y.
Yeah, I think they should just go with either a red or yellow helmet.
So question, is this the most prominent Scandinavian road team? I assume they are. I can't think of
You gotta
any
be.
other. Why isn't Panache making kit for them?
Great question.
I don't know.
Seems like a no-brainer to me, but
They do sponsor that. I mean, Warren, you would know the team. I've just seen the kit. I think it's awesome. But there's that cyclocross team.
Yeah, Panorama sponsors the cyclocross team, the Steve Tilford Foundation
That's it.
team, which has 3 people on it. And yeah, I think we talked about it a couple episodes ago. They have a great kit, a great cyclocross kit this year. And also, I worth mentioning, their one male rider, Curtis White, he's American. He recently won the American National Champs, and the kit that they made for him, the U.S. Champs kit, also looks great because it's surprisingly easy to make a very ugly U.S. Champs kit, but the one Panoramal has done for him for cross that he's wearing now in Europe as racing through the cursed period, it looks really good. So I don't know, maybe that's a long-term plan, or try to get them in. Maybe they don't. I don't know.
are you done talking about cyclocross here? I just fell asleep for a little bit. As soon as you said cyclocross, I zoomed out. Sorry.
You're missing a good curse period. There's some great racing with Vanderpool and Wout.
I don't know, Panorama and cyclocross. It's kind of the two things that made me zoom out. Anyway,
I would like to see Panoramal take a crack at it and see what they can do.
Anyway, Uno X, worth mentioning. I hadn't paid attention to it, but thank you, Warren, for bringing it to my attention. Moving on, EOLO KOMETA. That's the team that rides these Alberto Contador bikes, the Aurum bikes. Kit looks very similar to last year. So, by the way, another blue kit, pale blue with a kind of a fade. Kit is also made by Gobik. So, essentially, I don't know. I mean, this is Movistar, and actually, the EOLO logo isn't completely unlike the Movistar logo. It's also quite ugly, but it is, again, made by Gobik, Spanish kit manufacturer Gobik. It's got EOLO written on the front, all the sponsors. Very, very boring kit. There's a fade into green on the sleeves where the KOMETA logo is. There is one thing I will say. I haven't seen the bibs on this kit, and I don't see Burger King as a sponsor anywhere else on the
They're on the
kit.
website.
Are they on the website? I hope they kept the Whopper on the butt of the riders, because to me that was one of the highlights of last year's World Tour kits. I just thought that was incredible. Like seeing like a giant Whopper on these guys' bums, I thought was pretty damn cool. And I hope that they kept it, because to me that was the iconic element of that kit.
You just took my take. That was the only thing I was going to say, is I only care if they still have the Burger King logo on the butt.
Yeah, I have no use for this kit if it doesn't have the
Yeah,
Burger King
same.
on the butt. Okay, next one we got Astana, Kazakhstan with a Q, by the way. What's up with that? Like, why is it Astana, Kazakhstan with a Q?
Don't know, don't care.
Okay. Well, I guess it's going to be real quick talking about this kit because it looks basically like the EOLO kit and the Movistar kit. I think who makes this kit? Is it
It's Jordana.
Yeah.
So Jordana makes. Oh, that's right. They've been making that kit for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, look, navy bibs, pale blue jersey with a fade and a slight argyle pattern. It's pretty boring. It's pretty ugly. I don't know if they'll do a rap video this year. There is a Kazakh national champ kit somewhere in there as well. Another blue kit. It's honestly, it's going to be really hard distinguishing these guys this year.
It's funny. The UCI seems to have like a lot of rules about kits, and like, you know, you can't be in a Grand Tour and have your kit match the leader's jersey. I feel like I've never really noticed as much as I am right now of how many teams have like a light blue kit or just a blue kit, but there's a lot of light blue. Like, you think they would just ask or tell somebody to pick a new color.
And Warren, this is another case of UCI pro cycling just being commercially inept, which is a take that I often have on this podcast, but I just don't think they're very business savvy. The fact that you can't even distinguish or, you know, tell the teams apart when you're watching on television, like how is the casual viewer going to even pay attention? When you watch the NFL, there's one team usually wearing a colored jersey and there's another team wearing a white jersey, and it just makes the viewing experience easier.
Most notable thing about this photo is that Mark Cavendish isn't in it because he's rumored to be signing with Astana.
Hasn't been announced, right, yet?
No. You know, we're not a racing podcast. We're going to go into that. But that's the only thing that stood out to me.
Okay, next up, Bora Hansgrohe. Where do I start? So this is made by Le Col, which is Le Col potentially the most Canal brand on this podcast. I think they might be up there. We have Canal, Le Col quite a bit. We have talked about the typical Le Col rider being generally a new rider with a very high FTP because they come from running or triathlon and joined cycling during the pandemic and then went crazy ordering kit on Le Col. Oh, that looks like some poor quality stuff. I mean, they also have the ribbing on the sleeves and on the whole kit. I don't know. I'm just looking at the photos that they published, and one thing I hate about kit is when the jersey sleeves are a bit loose. And you know, I have huge biceps, not to brag, but so the jersey sleeves aren't all that loose on me. But when they are a little bit loose, like it's just one of the more annoying things. I want it to fit nicely. I want it to be snug. I want it to be aero. I was looking at the photo that they posted on the Bora Hansgrohe website, and it just seems like the very, very edge of those sleeves look a little bit loose and almost look like after 3 washes, they could be just flapping in the wind as you're riding. And that's a bad sign if you're a pro tour team. You definitely don't want to lose that extra 0.69 watts that you could lose to that. So yeah, it's pretty ugly. I mean, other than that, I guess, how do I describe the kit? It's got one sleeve that's a sort of turquoise green. It's got some red lines and there's some black, very prominent Bora Hansgrohe written on the front. But to me, what jumps out here is the quality seems very, very dodgy.
Yeah, in seeing this press photo of all the riders in the Le Col kit, it's reminding me of that kit unveiling that Ineos did when they switched to BioRacer that one time. And I forget which pro it was, but it looked like he was wearing a jersey that was like 3 sizes too big.
I think it was Richard Carapaz.
Yeah, it was Richard Carapaz. There was so much extra fabric all over him, and I'm seeing that replay again here. Like, look at where the arm meets the elbow, or sorry, the armpit, and there's just so much extra fabric there. I just know that's flapping in the wind.
I have a Pas Normal jersey that's a little bit like that. Unfortunately, that's now has been relegated to trainer kit.
Don't get me started on Pas Normal sizing. That's a whole episode. In terms of the design, it looks really similar to last year. I honestly don't notice any real difference. So at least it's not light blue. I think there's just too much going on. It's too busy. That's kind of my main takeaway. Yeah, it's just it's too busy with the different colors, all the logos. Like maybe take one color out, like take out the red and just have that like green and black, or take out the black and have the green and red. That might be, then you might have something.
Okay, next up is Human Powered Health. Warren, that's a US pro continental team, right?
Yes, I believe
So
so.
they're gonna do what are they racing, like Tour of the Gila, this kind of stuff?
Not sure. The women's team ends up in most of the major races, I believe. I'm not sure why I included this. I'm pretty sure this is like the exact same kit as last year. And if you remember from last year, we talked about it. There was that whole issue with all these different teams in the women's peloton basically having this like weird rainbow, what would you call that effect? Tint
It's a
or
gradient.
gradient. That's it. Sorry. Having that rainbow gradient. And they seem to have stuck with it. So hopefully all those other teams also haven't stuck with it. In the men's peloton, I think it would stand out quite nicely. But if that's still the case in the women's peloton, then it's going to be like essentially the light blue kit of the women's peloton.
So I scoped out the women's peloton, and for the most part, for those teams that have a male counterpart team, they're mostly the same, save Jayco. I think the only other one that has a gradient kit that could be mistaken for this is UAE, which also kept that
Right.
rainbow that they had last year with like the blue and red and yellow, if I remember correctly. It was kind of not identical to this, but just the same kind of concept.
So I mean, I actually like that one. I like the color scheme that they have going there. It starts with orange on the right shoulder, and then it gradually fades into the bottom left of the kit, going from red to purple to dark blue. I think I don't know, it's a pretty cool color scheme. Not completely different from the what was that team, the very very good women's kit from a couple of years ago, SRAM, I think. What's that team called, Warren?
Canadian
SRAM.
Swim?
Yeah, Canyon
Yeah,
SRAM.
Canadian
So
swim.
it's similar colors to Canyon SRAM, but different, I guess, fading, different patterns.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Yep.
it's okay. Unfortunately, though, the Human Powered Health logo doesn't look completely unlike the Movistar logo as well. It's like that kind of white gooey thing on the chest that you find there. It's just unfortunate how these corporations have such bad logos. But no, I mean the color scheme is good, and yeah, the fit looks all right. I've nothing against that kit.
I like how they've carried the gradient into the bibs. Like it goes from the shoulder, as you said, all the way down to like this dark blue. I don't know if it's a exact match, but it's pretty close. That becomes this like dark blue, almost dark purple, and that seems to match the bibs pretty well. So yeah.
Okay, last one we're gonna do, last but not least. This is super niche, but I added it in there because this is officially my worst kit of 2023. This is a continental team in Europe called China Glory Cycling. The only reason why I know about this is because a rider who is local to me here in Montreal, his name is James Piccoli. He was riding for Israel Startup Nation the last few years. Didn't have a very successful experience at Israel Startup Nation, although he's a great rider. He's a bit of a local legend actually here in Montreal, as he has the KOM for Camillien Oud. Anyway, he switched to that team, and it kind of got me thinking, oh, what is that team? And I started researching it, and I saw their kit, and oh my god, this is one of the worst things ever. Warren, something you want to say?
No, I'll let you talk about it first. I just, who's making the kit is important. I have something to say about that,
Yes.
but you can describe it first.
So the fact that, okay, so who is making the kit is very important because
Yeah.
this kit is made by Jacru, which I think is a Canadian company. Warren, correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm not actually sure. They're in the US as well, but they might be Canadian like based and founded, but it Jackaroo is, I've had a number of local team kits made by Jackaroo, and I want to first say, because I don't want it to seem like I'm ripping on Jackaroo, if you want custom kit made, they are a great choice, but I'm talking about like low level local amateur teams of people who have real jobs and are not.
It's who you call to make kit for you and your buddies, basically.
You expect a pro team to be associated with like a major brand. Like I'm not buying Jackaroo kit that isn't custom kit. You know what I mean? Even though think they might sell some. I don't even know. Jackaroo is for like your local kit team, and they make really good kit. I'm not slagging on it. And I will say, in some of these photos, it doesn't even look like China Glory went for the high end Jackaroo stuff, which even my teams can afford. So
So, I mean, I'm going to describe the kit a little bit because there's so much going on here. So it's a very, very bright red, and we'll post it on Instagram because
oh yeah,
you have to look into the deep corners of the internet to find that kit, the China Glory team. Because first of all, I didn't even know that team existed. Also, it seems like kind of a propaganda team for China to further their soft power ambitions
yeah.
in Europe and in the cycling
It's
watching
called China
world.
Glory.
China Glory. It's like Bahrain Victorious, or I don't know, but it's got a Chinese flag on it. So it definitely, like Xi Jinping designed that kit almost. It's bright red. It says China Glory in like italics, capital letters on the front. And then there's some yellow lines in the bottom. This is a mix of like Calgary Flames 1993 hockey jersey, and I guess maybe I'm gonna show my age here, but I remember like in the late 1990s there was some people who would wear like these oversized short sleeved shirts that would have been like black with like some fire flame patterns and some Chinese lettering on them. You know, like if you were a white rapper, for example, you might have worn that. Quite bad. I mean, in terms of reference, this is kind of where it's going. And again, there's a Chinese flag on top of it. It says China, China, China on it. So clearly, this is a propaganda kit for China. But here's the deal, though, where I want to go with this. First of all, the website. So you go on the China Glory website. The font throughout the website, which I thought was hilarious, is basically the font that, let's say you order like something from AliExpress and it shows up to your house from China in a box, and then you open the instructions manual. It's usually written in Chinese, and the English translation is on like a very specific font that it seems like computers in Asia that are using Asian characters or Chinese or Mandarin characters will translate to Latin characters. It's that sort of cheap Times New Roman, but that's not quite Times New Roman. So their entire website seems to be made of that font. And it seems like some of that font made it onto the kit, unfortunately. Man, this is some bad kit. We're gonna have to show it on our
Oh yeah.
Instagram, but this is top notch bad kit.
To talk about the website just for a second as well, is it looks like it was made on GeoCities. So I don't know how old our listeners are. That was like a website you could make your own personal websites on in like the 90s, like late 90s. The website just looks so cheap. And then the kit itself, I think Alex described it well. It looks like an AliExpress knockoff, but it's like the actual jersey. So it's like the knockoff is the team jersey. I don't know. It just looks like a team that doesn't exist or is like a fictional team from a movie. I got to be honest though, Alex, it's not my least favorite jersey. Like I propaganda aside, it could be worse. Like at least it's not light blue again, but like, and at least they're doing something kind of crazy on the legs with the yellow and the red flame. It does look like the Calgary Flames, which is, you know, the NHL hockey team in Canada. Um, it looks horrible with the white helmets that they have on their website. My reaction is, do you think if Astana, Kazakhstan was called Kazakhstan Glory, would they be allowed in the UCI? Like,
I mean, what's next? Like Mother Russia cycling team. I mean, this is
yeah.
just it's crazy. And so you go on the website, it says they're a startup team with big ambitions. They have a Chinese identity. They want to bring professionalism to the cycling scene in China. So you check their partners on the website, and it says partners. Then huge Chinese flag. It says Team China. Then it says China. Then it says Team China. And then there's like Jackaroo and other brands out there.
Mm-hmm.
This is some like Chinese propaganda stuff. It's I don't know how much we'll see them in big races. Honestly, I looked at some of their record from the last few years. They seem to be doing mostly, I guess, small race like Langkawi. They've got some small kind of 1 day races in Romania. I mean, it doesn't seem like they're going to be in the main
No,
classics or
no,
anything
not at
like
all.
that, but we'll definitely recognize that kit if they are.
We are only talking about this team because you saw James Piccoli sign with them and found the kit. That is the only reason we are talking about them.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I love James Piccoli. Like I said, he's a bit of a legend here in Montreal. I've followed his career from a long time ago because I followed his career since he was riding on smaller teams. Then he was just ripping like 3 minute 30 Camillien ascents. Then he won the Tour de Beauce, which is a big race here. And then he got picked up by Israel. Like I've really followed kind of his ascent into pro cycling. And when I saw he went to China Glory Racing, I was like scratching my head. And then I saw the kit, and I was like, no, James, are you gonna roll into a club wearing that kit? Okay, well, with China Glory Racing, this caps our review of team kits. I mean, we haven't talked about every one of them. There's just too many. We thought we took the most interesting ones. Let us know if you feel we absolutely missed something. Send us a DM at Cycling Fashion Week on Instagram or email cyclingfashionweek@gmail.com, and we could maybe comment on some of the ones that we missed in future episodes. But that is it for now for our review of pro kits. Okay, our next segment is the first into the Canal of 2023, first of many, I hope, for our new listeners. Into the Canal is where we get to throw something from the world of cycling or cycling fashion that we absolutely hate into Montreal's scenic Lachine Canal. Alternatively, the opposite of a canal is called a Camillien, which I alluded to earlier. Camillien Oud is the most famous, most gruesome, most gnarly climb in the world in Montreal. So that is when we like something, we want to commend something, we call it a Camillien. Who wants to start this week, guys?
I'll go first because I feel like I have a hot take, kind of controversial one in a little bit, or at least for our listeners, or what they expect from us is I'm actually going to give a Camillien to the vegan cyclist. If you're not familiar with the vegan cyclist, he is a YouTube vlogger, amateur cyclist. He's done a lot of events. He's also even made some like movie length YouTube videos about the Impossible Route series. He is definitely not for everybody. He is who he is. He's a personality that probably a lot of people might find a bit grating, but I think we've talked about him before. We were debating who's more annoying, him or Phil Gaiman, and it's Phil Gaiman by a mile. And anyway, he's just kind of a guy who's like become a very strong cyclist, does a lot of interesting stuff on the bike, and films it excessively. I'm giving him a Camillien because I recently found out he put on a free Fondo event, and he did this, I think, in his or where he lives, which I think is called Bass Lake, California. I think it's like a small town in California, and he put on a free 2-day event. There was no registration fee. He didn't ask for donations. You just had to sign up with your email. And he admitted, I want your email because I'm going to like promote my clothing company to you. But the reason I'm giving Camillien is because the cycling industry is out here talking about inclusivity, getting more people on bikes, blah, blah, blah. And then you have the vegan cyclists putting on a literal free event that had food 2 days, like seemed like it pretty beautiful scenery out in the California mountains, like looked like a pretty nice event, and it was free. There's no other way to promote inclusivity and community in cycling than running a free event. So all these brands that are talking about it should just do things like that. In this video about it, does a breakdown of the costs and like how he basically isn't losing money because he had some event sponsors and that kind of thing. So yeah, that I just think everybody talks about doing things for bringing more people on bikes, and he's out there throwing free events where people of all abilities are welcomed. He was literally helping people ride up the mountain if they weren't prepared for the elevation. So yeah, normally people would be pretty surprised for us to praising vegan cyclists, but there's no way you can't respect that, because that's a huge thing to do, to put on an event, but then to do it for free. That to me is exactly what a lot of pretty much anyone talking about inclusivity in cycling should be doing, is putting on free events.
Yeah, I didn't hear about that, but I think if you're charging $20,000 for a bike, you can afford to throw us a bone and put on a free event for us.
Well, and just going back to what I said at the top of the show, the fact that, the gravel scene, especially, I think is all the talk about community and whatever. And then, you've got, like I said, event like a Leadville is $500 reg fee. Unbound, if you get in, is, was it like 300 and something, I think. So, and I'm not comparing the two. I'm not saying his event was Unbound, but only so many people can afford to spend $500 bike event. I'm not saying race, because you're not winning. If you're paying $500, you are not winning Leadville.
What's the fee for Paris to Ancaster, Warren?
So Paris to Ancaster is a local gravel race outside of Toronto that kicks off the season.
Is it a race, really?
It is for some people.
Yo, it's nationals. It's actually the
Yeah.
national. It's the course for the national gravel championships in Canada for
which is happening for the first time this year.
Inaugural.
Yeah, and they're going to be so it is a race for like, low level Canadian pro amateurs. For the furthest distance, the 100K, this year it is going to be $175, which I personally think is way too high. I will not be doing that event this year, but that's a very niche race. But imagine your local gravel race charging, a lot of money for like, and I think an important point is that event is point to point. It doesn't start and end at the same place. So like you have to organize rides. It's a real pain in the ass. You have to leave a car at the start and drive back to it, drive that car back to pick people up. Anyway, you're paying $175 for that privilege this year.
So what I hate about some of these gravel events is when you're paying a pretty hefty fee to enter the event, and the course is not even close to cars. It's like you're riding. I mean, granted, on gravel roads, right? So there's not that many cars to begin with, but you're still riding next to cars, and you've paid to be in the event. In a way, I mean, I could just literally look at the course of your event on Strava, even though I don't use Strava, and go ride it myself next to cars for free. I mean, of course I wouldn't get the beer at the end and the snack, but I could probably pay for that myself.
There's only beer if they don't run out.
Yeah, well, hopefully I'd be one of the first few ones to arrive at the beer stand, even though that's very unlikely. But yeah, no, I mean, I agree. Good. Shout out, I was going to say gravel cyclist, vegan cyclist. And Warren, I guess you sounded like you would have been negative on vegan cyclists had it not been for this. I have nothing against vegan cyclists. I mean, he's a beast. I mean, he's a very strong rider. I mean, here's a guy who's a dad and running a business. Like, I don't know how he does it, to be honest. I think I saw a video from him. Like, he averaged 205 watts for like 19 hours or something crazy. I mean, it's crazy. I would never do that, but I don't know. He puts himself out there. I don't like vegans in general. Especially when they're very sanctimonious about it. But he's not, though. He's like, yeah, I'm vegan, whatever. So I don't know. I don't hate the guy. I like him.
I don't hate him either. I just think the reason I caveated that is I feel like our audience would probably expect us to hate him.
Well, because we hate everything in general.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I agree he's not that sanctimonious when he watches videos, but he did call himself the vegan cyclist. So
okay, I'm gonna move on to my Canal. So drop some more hate into the world. So my Canal, it's the beginning of the year. This is something that took place about 2 weeks ago. And no, it is not the Festive 500, which I've canaled 2 weeks earlier, which is an annual occurrence in the holidays. I canal the Festive 500. This is about people putting on Instagram, or should I say flexing their Strava mileage for the year on Instagram. My God, so many people I follow, around like December 31st, January 1st, were flexing that screenshot from their Strava app to Instagram saying, oh, if I hadn't, I got injured in 2022, but if I hadn't got injured, maybe I would have had 30,000 kilometers instead of 25,000 kilometers. Or the best one I saw was something like, I don't even watch like my mileage all that much. I don't believe in mileage, but I still rode 28,000 kilometers in 2022. The egregious flexing of your Strava mileage on other social media, I think has to be thrown in the Canal. I mean, Warren and I discussed this though. Social media is for flexing in general. That's what people use it for. So in a way, I should kind of expect that. But to me, that has to be in the Canal. It's very annoying. And the other thing I would say, riding anything higher than 10,000 kilometers a year has to be in the Canal because it means you don't have other hobbies or interests, or you probably don't spend much time reading a book, or like how many interesting conversations can you have if you ride more than 10,000? Italian Alex, did I just throw you in the Canal here? I think I did.
Yeah, I just got owned. I mean, I don't know what my number is, but I think it was more than that.
It was
But
definitely more than 10. Come on. He's being modest, everybody.
Warren, your biggest year, was it north of 10 or under?
It was north of 10, yeah. But not by a lot.
But the problem with this number, to your point, Alex, is that when Strava runs the numbers on your mileage, that includes like quote unquote virtual miles.
Yeah.
Oh, that's in the Canal. That is not real mileage.
Like, and I'm a big Zwift head. Like, I love Zwift, but those numbers are so padded, it's unbelievable.
Oh,
and
yeah.
those get included. So it's not a real,
And you
like,
could just ride on the Watopia flat route the
Yeah.
whole time to
You
boost
could
your
do
mileage.
70K in like an hour and a half. I think honestly, like in an early episode of this podcast, I think we threw putting Zwift on Strava into the Canal for that reason, because it pads your Strava numbers.
Yeah, but I also don't want to see your Zwift on Strava. I don't even want to see your Strava anyway. Like, stop it with the flexing.
Well, you're not on Strava, so but you're talking about people sharing like the recap on like social,
Yeah.
you know, like Instagram especially. And I'm a little torn here, Alex. Like on one hand, I agree with you. I don't like when people who are riding, you know, like 15,000 plus K and sharing it, and then maybe making a comment about, oh, I didn't hit my goals, or oh, I don't worry about my numbers. Or it's like, then why are you sharing?
It's a
But
humble
I do.
brag.
Yeah, it is. But I do want to say, like, for the newer cyclists who are maybe only a couple years in, like, I remember the first time I rode 2000K in the year. But when I did, like, I thought that was an insane amount. I couldn't believe it, you know? So honestly, if people are sharing that, I've got
But
no
Warren,
problem with
this
that.
is not the people that I'm canaling.
I know.
The new rider who's like proud about their 2,000 kilometer summer. Like, that's not who I'm canaling. Who I'm canaling is the 20,000 plus people.
I know. I just want to clarify that because I know that's what you mean. And I think it's more, I will say I am impressed if you're riding over 10,000. I know Alex thinks it means you're boring, but like, you can have a lot of interesting conversations on the bikes.
Yeah, about cycling and performance metrics and FTP. But I'm not sure you can have a conversation about much else.
I mean, for me, I'm just not really sure how people find the time. I guess to your point, maybe their partner, if they have a partner, also bikes or whatever, and they just spend all their time together. Like the years I have done over 10,000, which aren't that many, like one of them was like 2020, so there was just nothing else to do. And yeah, it's more just like, is that all you do?
And I'm also gonna throw in the Canal people who share their Spotify recap for the year as well. No one
what?
cares. No one
There's
cares.
nothing. No.
What?
No, you're wrong.
Yeah,
Alex.
it's in the same vein. It's like
no,
no
different.
one cares.
No.
Very different. Very different. That's not a flex. That's just like,
I got to counter Canal Alex on that one.
yeah, go for it.
I get it. Like, maybe people don't care, but I care. I like look at all my friends' Spotify wraps, and I think it's just a really nice way to see what my friends have been listening to throughout the year. And it, like Warren said, it's like not a flex. I mean, if you have like having a really high amount of time listening to music on Spotify is kind of equivalent to having a lot of kilometers on Strava for the year. It just shows like one-dimensional personality, but I just like to see what my friends are listening to throughout the year.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, Italian Alex, what do you got in the Canal or on the Camillien this week?
I'm going to bring it back to cycling. So over the weekend, I took the liberty with the marginally warmer weather, warm by Canadian winter standards, to do an outdoor winter road ride. And I hadn't done one since last winter. And having been so long since I've done one, I forgot how much it sucks. So I'm going to Canal outdoor road riding in the winter.
Is that the ride you didn't invite me to?
It is. And I knew you were going to bring that up, but I can say now on the record, it was worth not coming to. caveat, it's great to see your friends. Like I rode with friends, so it was nice to see everyone again. Obviously, I'm not shading anyone. It wasn't the social component of it. That's awesome. There's too many negatives and they're not worth the positives. You go slower,
Mm-hmm.
you're breathing cold air, you can't really wait. You just get fucking filthy. You have to clean your bike for longer than you rode it. You can't really go far. And the whole time, because the weather's so harsh, you're really not able to enjoy your surroundings. So I know there's some courageous riders out there that enjoy it, and maybe they do, but I just cannot find the pleasure in spending more than like half an hour outside on a bike for athletic recreational purposes, so not including commuting, of course, or travel. I have the right kit. Like I bought expensive winter kit. It looks great. I love it. It kept me warm, so it wasn't just like a, a problem of not dressing appropriately. It was just the circumstances of the ride made it miserable, and I am going to condemn myself to the trainer until we reach like an average of at least 5+ degrees from sunrise to sunset before I step outside again. It's just not worth it.
There's no bad weather. There's only bad kit. Do I sound like the Spats guy a little bit in the Yorkshire Dales? Um, I mean, Alex, I want to disagree with you. Look, I think if you have like Spats Q36.5, you also need a crappier bike to do this, because I agree with you on the bike cleaning front. It's very annoying. You get your beautiful bike all dirty. You have to spend a lot of time cleaning the drivetrain. It's very, very annoying. But yeah, you need like a crappy. I have a crappy cyclocross bike that's built on SRAM that I use for this. I mentioned it at the beginning of the program. SRAM works better when it's unmaintained and dirty, and that's what this bike is for. It's for this January 5th ride after it's been raining and the snow kind of washed away from the road. That's kind of what I use it for. I mean, is it great? No, I'd rather be cross country skiing, to be honest, in the winter, or even training on the trainer. But I don't know. I don't think it's in the canal necessarily.
I agree with Italian Alex. I was actually going to ride that day, and I think jokingly throwing him under the bus for not inviting me is I said, "Hey, anyone want to ride?" And then the night before, I was like, "You know what? I don't really want to ride." And in the same way, I have all this nice winter kit, and I hear what you're saying, Alex, about having like a crappy winter bike. That would definitely make it easier, but it's more just the experience of you described. Like it's just so unenjoyable. Like you can't even really do a proper coffee stop, because if you do, when you start again, you're so cold that you're like colder because if you were sweating at all, it's sort of like it'll freeze on it. Yeah, it's just
There's other things, to your point, French Alex, there's other things I'd rather do with that time, like cross country ski
a ride Zwift for 4 hours.
or Zwift for 4 hours. I would love that.
Okay, that's it for another episode of Cycling Fashion Week with myself, Alex, Warren, and Italian Alex back for the first time this year. Shoot us an email, cyclingfashionweek@gmail.com. Send us a DM or follow us on Instagram @cyclingfashionweek. Send us your bikes to review. We're going to get back to that in the next few episodes. We actually have a very good lineup of listener submitted bikes to review. And we will be back very shortly with more Cycling Fashion Week content, bringing you the official takes on what you should wear and not wear on the bike this year in 2023. Until then, be well and see you soon.
We miss you, Tony.